welcome back to the channel. Another mining film, this time on Overton Mine, which was a part of the Gregory lead mine ore field near Ashover in Derbyshire. We got to know about the mine through some friends in another caving club who agreed to take us along there because the mine itself is in somebody's back garden. Consequently, we needed permission to roam around their land and take the lid off the mine and such like. So it's quite a homely place really. We were passed cups of coffee from the kitchen window. It's not a long descent, just 80 feet to the bottom, but it's been mined since the 17th century. They discovered a whiskid, which is a little basket that's made from rushes, which they filled with ore and carried it around, used to carry it around the mine to where it was deposited and such like. The Overton mine was reopened in the 20th century, I think in the 50s or 60s, and like so many Derbyshire lead mines, re-exploited for fluorspar. There's quite a lot of fluorspar as a byproduct. When the miners were working, they didn't want fluorspar, but there's tons of it left in the mine, and they were gathering all this up, and for so many years they were recovering it and selling it on until it finally closed altogether. We actually met three of you, meet three of the former miners in this film who tell of their experiences. And I think that's about it. Thank you for joining us again, and I hope you'll enjoy the film.
My daddy was a miner, and he says there's nothing finer than an Irish...
The imposing presence of Overton Hall, family seat of Joseph Banks, the distinguished 18th century naturalist, greets visitors to this leafy, secluded corner of Derbyshire close to the village of Ashover. Were he still around, he'd doubtless approve the motives of this gathering of mine explorers, as he was also a dedicated and successful explorer. He frequently visited Overton and the prosperous Gregory and Overton lead mines on his estate, and would doubtless also visit these outbuildings now transformed into a superb dwelling. Our presence has alerted the keen senses of in-house security, and he makes it his business to check out intruders as they descend on his patch. The smell of plastic trousers isn't too familiar, but with a puzzled look he lets us pass anyway. Our trip convener Liz chats to Ruth, the owner of the cottage and mine shaft round the back, the descent of which gives us access to the old lead workings beneath Overton. Ruth kindly confirms that all is in order, and we can look forward now to our day underground.
There's nothing down there old. I did send you out the whiskey because that's usually on the...
In no time work begins for our descent, and like some outsized Meccano set, metal supports, brackets and pulleys are assembled and attached to a small motor, which will drive the winch that gets us effortlessly up and down the shaft. Our group gathers round the head of the shaft. Not long to go before we can descend into the cool, permanent shade of our familiar world.
Did you come back on this? Wait for it.
Roy has cleverly converted a dependable motor mower engine into a reliable winch by fitting it with a sturdy cable and clutch. Safety has to be a priority. He keeps a watchful eye on every moving part and always insists on a test run to calibrate the cable so he'll know when to slow down and give us a soft landing at the bottom. The cable is reassuringly strong and will support the weight of several saloon cars. The tiny seat pops out and signals that at last it's time to go.
Who's next?
The seat looks a confusing jumble of wires and ropes, but Pete's made many descents and knows the drill well.
Oh, my spade!
Don't sell me camera, will you, Pete?
Oh yeah, when do you want your camera back?
Are you going to try and get it?
Dave,
Yeah?
I said you won't see him halfway there.
Well, he will with
Stop
us.
a third.
The first few metres of the shaft is lined with gritstone blocks to keep back the loose material round the shaft top. It's called ginging. You can see how carefully the blocks have been cut to fit into an almost perfect circle. Its exact date of construction is unknown, but it's certainly before 1806, when the mine ceased to be productive. Over the years, water containing traces of iron and other minerals has seeped through the rock and evaporated to form beautiful concretions.
It just swings across, you see, and you hang off that.
At a depth of 80 feet, it would have taken over a year to drive in the hard limestone, and the size suggests that it would have been used for haulage rather than access. The descent's almost complete, and looking down you can just see Pete getting out of the chair at the bottom.
Okay.
Quite a bit of rubble's found its way down the shaft over the years, so originally it would have been quite a bit deeper. The result is an awkward slippery scramble down through a low arch. But the passage soon opens up, and the majority of the mine from now on is relatively easy going. The candle's a traditional way of letting other visitors know that someone's at home. The last one out turns the light out. It isn't long before we begin to see signs of mining activity, and in the far corner is a stack of waste rock known as deads. The stack is often referred to as a pack.
Well, that's like a shale filling. Is that...
In the top left of this shot can be seen the neat furrows made by the miner's pick, often done just for the sake of neatness or to round off a corner.
Scale of it, won't you?
Where does that lead to?
That goes back under the main shaft.
All right. The space between the walls here is filled with waste material, but originally most of the gap would have been filled with the lead-rich mineral, called a vein, which was picked out and sold by the miners. Traces of minerals and crystals still enhance the otherwise barren walls. The horizontal shot holes seen in the walls of this passage would have been driven by hand, a two-man job, with one holding and turning the drill bit and the other bashing it with a hammer. Exhausting, awkward and slow work in such confined spaces. The limestone in which the lead veins occur is a very hard rock formed 350 million years ago of millions of microscopic seashells, but here and there are traces of the larger shells. Records show that Overton Mine was in production as a lead mine from the middle of the 17th century right through until 1806, when losses on unproductive ventures led to its closure. It enjoyed 45 years of good profits, but the most productive time was when Overton and nearby Gregory veins met in the late 1700s, when yields worth £15,000 a year were recorded, 12 million at today's values.
A bit higher up, I think.
Thin mineral veins occur here in the roof, but contain little lead and would hardly have been worth mining.
I don't think that's anything to do with this is like mudstone.
Could it be
isn't it?
quartz? During the 1960s, the mine was briefly reopened and mined on a small scale for fluorspar, which was fetching relatively high prices at the time. These latter-day miners simply gleaned the fluorspar from where it had fallen as waste during the time it was mined for lead. This seemingly ancient tub only dates back to those days, being little more than 40 years old. It's made from conveyor belt and designed to run on steel rollers. Well, you can see the ribs where it's been, reinforcing. Yeah. The shafts we're approaching is 100 foot from surface and was reopened and used by fluorspar miners for hauling men and materials. The tangled, rusting remains of the cables can still be seen. Okay. Yeah. That's daylight through those chinks.
You can actually crawl into that. Very oriented to the rail.
You are, aren't you?
Hang a line in here. What's your down below. Yeah.
He's orangey. The process of mineralisation took place millions of years ago when hot mineral fluids found their way into cavities and cracks in the rocks at a time when there were still massive earth movements and the landscape was still evolving. You can see the grooves on the rock face made when two masses of rock forced their way past each other. It's called slickensides. Climbing down the steep, slippery slopes will take us to regions of the mine where we'll encounter flooded workings, which caused the miners so many problems 200 years ago. A further example of nature's way of adorning the barren rock since mining ceased is seen here. It's a stalactite formed by dissolved material, stained red by iron oxides, being redeposited on the roof, adding colour to otherwise dull surroundings. Pumping engines were installed at nearby Gregory Mine, which connects with Overton Mine, to drain these tall, narrow passages. But once the mine was abandoned, the water table returned to its former level, and even in very dry conditions, such as we're enjoying at the moment, water can pose a serious barrier to further exploration. Wow.
Yeah, that's about it.
Right. So it's back to the real world after an excellent day's exploration. Who knows what exciting new discoveries await future explorers of this fascinating old lead mine.
Try and face as you are.
Yeah. That way.
No, face me, this way. Alright. Bit more. Keep it.
In the following autumn, the mine was again prepared for a visit by a group of specially invited guests who were to make a sentimental journey to their old haunts. Liz had located 3 of the original miners from the days when the mine was reworked for fluorspar, and I caught up with them as they headed for the rusting remains of the old headstocks and engine. Their recollections provide a fascinating record of the comradeship and work experienced in a typical small-scale, privately owned mining venture of the time.
I started with the group after they'd been established, probably in the late 60s, 68, 69, something like that. We started because we worked at Claycross Company, as it was then. Both Malcolm and myself worked in Claycross Company in the laboratory, and we got interested through Sid and Fred and Cliff Williams, and I worked till about 1974 with them, group work with them.
Right. Were you a surface worker then, or did you go
No, underground. I used to operate the winch on the top, underground, whatever.
Right.
It was share and share alike, wasn't it?
Yep, must have been. Yep.
And who's beside you there?
John Rawton. I joined the group in about 1970, and I've also had a spell on the donkey engine, and it was tricky to work. Mark was saying today that it's a freewheeling motion on the way down, and it was a very, very light touch on the bar here to raise and lower. In fact, it's seized up.
Right.
It's seized up all this time.
So have I. And next to you is?
Malcolm Harrod. I also worked with John in the laboratories down at Claycross Company and got into it in the late 60s. Worked a bit later than John. We went straight through till 1976 when the Health and Safety at Work Acts meant that it was awkward for the company to allow us to work on their land because of their liability under the Health and Safety at Work. At that point we packed up and we did a bit of surface working, really. Some of the old rakes round the back of Overton, round the back of Milltown, sorry. Did a bit of surface working and also a bit of dry stone walling for them. When they've been out mining by machine, we went and put the walls back and stiles and bits and bobs. I think mainly we all call it work, but it was mainly a social day.
Social gathering.
We came out in the morning on a Sunday.
We used to have a breakfast.
Have us breakfast, have a cup lunch,
Right.
and generally have a good day out in countryside, didn't we?
Yeah.
Did you have fond memories of working here then?
Oh, tremendous memories, yeah. In fact, I think this morning's quite nostalgic and it's quite
we used to
heart-wrenching at times, isn't it?
Yeah. How many of you would you
the
be
end of the
then?
day was in the Greyhound at Milltown, which is now the Nettle.
Right. How many would there be of you working here then?
Oh, on a good day, anything up to 8 or 9, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
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 When everybody could come.
And a typical day would be?
Get here about 9:30, 10 o'clock. In the early days we used to sort of work till about 2 or 3, but later on, as the management of the team or the development of the team changed, we'd be here till 4 and 5 sometimes.
Yeah. And what would you be doing during the day, during the course of the day? Presumably the first thing you do would have a brew, isn't it?
Well, we used to have a stove in the shed.
First ones here were getting the brew up, yeah.
Right.
First one here was like the stove in the shed.
You remember this well, do you?
Oh,
Very.
crikey, yeah.
Yeah.
Spent many hours working there.
Is it what is it, it's a diesel or something? Or?
Yeah, it's diesel, old Lister diesel.
Oh, Leicester is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. And was it reliable?
Oh, yes.
Once we got it going, it was a pain to start. We used to have to give it plenty easy start, turn it over on handle first off,
Yeah.
with the compression valves open,
Right.
bang the compression valves closed, and we'd hope it'd catch.
So it'd be some years old perhaps when you originally had it, was it? Or was it brand new?
It worked. We got it from a mine. Fred Darby fetched it from a mine somewhere local, and it had actually been working up to about the 50s, I think, as a mine, as a cage, as a headstock, as a working unit.
Oh yeah.
That shut down. I think that was something connected with Claycross Company as then, and we had permission to get it and bring it down here and
set it up.
Set it up again for reuse. So it was a working lead mine headstock scenario.
We worked it till the mid-70s.
How do you feel just seeing it again? I mean, it's not many relics that survive this long, are it, really? I mean, how does it feel to think, well, you actually worked that 30, 40 years ago?
I should like to see it done up.
Would you?
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice. I'd like to see it be done up.
Tin mug.
Oh, right.
Whose mug's that?
No.
Talking about brews, this is where you used to have your snapped, is it, in here?
Yeah, this is an old garage that somebody was throwing out in the village that we commandeered. Split it into two. We had one part as a mess room and one part as a storage area.
A mess room?
Yeah, you know, with fire and frying pans and things. And
that was the back. And
did
in
a
front we
brew
used to keep spare cable and storage stuff.
I mean, the winding people, there were always two people left on surface, both of which had to be able to wind. So we always had two experienced winders on surface and everybody else underground.
So you actually didn't operate the winch from the donkey engine from here, did you?
No. But the phone was in here as well. So once
you still see anything through there then?
The phone's still here.
Oh no!
Still here.
That's amazing.
That's got to be like nearly 30 years, 28, 30 years.
So what's through in that little room then? Is that
the mess room?
Oh, the mess room.
That's where we used to have the stove and cook the breakfast.
Yeah. We'll go and have a look then.
Yeah.
I don't know the room for three. Alright.
The stove.
Weren't on the bench though.
No, that was there.
Over there.
Yeah.
Over there in that corner.
Was it?
Stove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, I see. There's not a lot of room in here, is there? But I suppose there's all you need.
There's the top of the stove.
Yeah, but we've got seating round, so we're quite comfy
There's some coal left.
comfy and cosy.
Yeah?
Some old batteries here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the way you used to get to and from work then, is it?
This is it. This is where we went down.
Right. And how did this work then?
We had little safety bars on the front.
Yes.
Oh, that was what you just kicked off.
Yeah.
So you had to climb in, two people at a time, put your bars back on, and you were on your way down.
Very quickly at times.
120 foot deep.
Yeah.
The first thing we had to do in the morning obviously was to lift the cage up, because there's steel doors over the shaft itself. Padlocked as well, so we lift the cage up, open the doors which will reveal the shaft. We then had, and looking at it, it looks a bit broken, like a ladder mechanism, which is part of this box section here, that sat across the shaft. So when the cage was up and people were climbing in and out or were taking the bags of spar out, we'd put the box section ladder across and lower the cage onto that as a safety function.
Right.
That looks to be a bit broken.
So it wasn't just a thing for hauling out the spar, it was a manhole as well?
Yeah, we used to wind the men and the materials, everything, through one shaft.
Oh.
Look at safe.
Just be careful. There doesn't seem to be a lot of room, does there?
I think the biggest job is getting the shackle off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to get two in here.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to pick two in, two at a time.
Two in.
Good Lord.
Then we used to wind it back up, and there's many a time we've had 500, 700, 800 weight of spar in, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's pulled her up. I used to make old diesel engine chuff when you got a load of spar in. Then you get a phone call from top, don't put so much in next time.
Did you have a signal system?
We had a telephone.
Oh, I see, yeah, all the mod comms.
So we had phone from the top. So once we were down, the people who'd been up here winding would be in the shed. We had the phone, and there was a phone at the bottom. So the first one down, he took his phone with him, just plugged it in and said, right down, safe, you know, take her back.
Right.
And then we also extended the phone system through the mine.
Yeah.
Right. And it was pretty functional, it did everything you asked
Oh
to do.
yeah, I mean, we've got guide ropes to it. It was a professional setup, really.
It'd be a shame to let it rot, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, definite.
As you say, it's the last headstocks.
Yeah, quite a good setup.